The research I've accumulated over time on Galveston is a large file, and I want to share it all with y'all. We're going to go over some newspaper articles that I found today. It's just a bunch of different pieces to this mysterious puzzle. Let's get into it. The first article we're going to talk about is dated September 11th, 1900, which 101 years later, a guy in a cave would orchestrate the biggest terrorist attack the world has ever seen. But that's besides the point. This article is a couple days after the hurricane devastated Galveston, and this gentleman over here, he starts to talk about Galveston as his second home. He loves the place, and he starts to talk about the hotels that are on the beach. He says, large and handsome hotels have been built along the southern boundary. Among them is the Beach Hotel, which contains 1,300 rooms. This part of the city is reported to have received the chief brunt of the hurricane, and thus the destruction of the hotel district is more than probable. What's weird about that is that the Beach Hotel had 1,300 rooms, and that the Beach Hotel had been destroyed by a fire, a mysterious fire in 1898, which is 2 years before the article was written. Is it a glitch in the Matrix? Is it a simple mistake? Is it the real narrative coming out? Who knows? But put it to the puzzle. Now bringing it back to the first article you saw, which was also written shortly after the hurricane devastated Galveston. They say at the top, ghouls and vandals are shot down in the street by troops. And if you didn't know, a couple of days after the Galveston hurricane, 2,000 troops came marching in, not to help, but to restore order, because supposedly there were hundreds of ghouls and vandals. I mean, that's a lot of troops, right? And you might be saying, well, they came to help. Well, that's not what these articles are saying. They held some of the survivors at gunpoint to make them help. They even drugged them. This short article I found, dated September 11th as well, says, soldiers and policemen were accordingly sent out, and every able-bodied man that I found was marched to the war front. The men were worked in relays and were supplied with stimulants to nerve them from their tasks. They had stimulants ready for them? Then on the hurricane's Wikipedia page, you can find it. It says funeral pyres were set up on the beaches or wherever dead bodies were found and burned day and night for several weeks after the storm. The authorities passed out free whiskey to sustain the distraught men conscripted for the gruesome work of collecting and burning the dead. They came ready with stimulants and alcohol to drug these survivors that have already been traumatized. And mind you, these are the same survivors that got on board about the seawall and about raising the city and about the bonds for that. And speaking of seawall, this article goes on to say, the despair of the situation is that human skill can devise no means to protect it, to protect Galveston. Great seawalls cannot be built, as no foundations can be had for them in the shifting sand. And the whole island is a long, narrow sand spit, so low that an extraordinary high tide will cover it. What? Yet a year later, from the date that the hurricane hit Galveston, they built a 3.3 mile seawall and raised the place with the survivors. Then, to top it all off in this article, under Stories of the Storm, it says, Professor DeVoe, Chattanooga, Tennessee, predicted the Texas cyclone in an almanac. He predicted the cyclone. Nobody notified anybody about that? And honestly, you might be thinking, oh, well, yeah, I'm sure. How many predictions did he get right? Well, in his book, he wrote, the change of attitude has been due very largely to the fact that many who have kept careful record of his predictions and their fulfillment have testified that his major forecasts for large areas of the country have been proven to be in the main correct, and the minor forecasts for local atmospheric conditions have had an average of 80% of fulfillment. Oops, we forgot. DeVoe, he predicted that. We forgot to tell you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And one more thing to add from this article, if you look at the flight path of this hurricane, this curve right here is not shown today. This is what we get today. Okay, a little more straight, right? There's not that big curve over by Cuba. Well, look at Katrina, big curve, right? Well, I was reading a lot of these really disastrous hurricanes have those curves in it. They have the curves in it. It's something you can find on a lot of the flight paths. So like I said, I have a lot more information on Galveston and obviously other cities, but I know I left you a little more confused than you were at the beginning. But that's the mystery. That's the pieces of the puzzle. That's the puzzle we are trying to figure out. Help me with it. Love y'all and have a good day.